The original Wrong Turn wasn't exactly a masterpiece, but it had a clear vision. A tight, nasty little horror flick that leaned into suspense, brutality, and terror. It was simple but effective. Then came the sequels, and things went downhill fast. By the time we hit Wrong Turn 5, the franchise had morphed into something unrecognizable. A parade of blood, boobs, and barely coherent plots. So what happened? Why did a franchise that had potential devolve into straight-to-DVD chaos? Released in 2003, Wrong Turn wasn't trying to break new ground in horror. It wasn't clever or subversive, and it didn't need to be. What made it work was how confidently it played within its own boundaries. It's a tight, 90-minute slasher that sticks to the basics. A group of stranded travelers, an isolated forest, and a trio of inbred cannibals lurking in the trees. But every element is handled with just enough care to make it effective. The film uses its setting incredibly well. The Appalachian wilderness is a character itself. The towering trees, the silence, and the isolation all contributes to a creeping sense of dread. You feel trapped out there, just like the characters. It taps into a primal fear, being lost, hunted, and completely cut off from help. The killers are grotesque and brutal. That makes them feel more real and more threatening. You get brief glimpses of their life in the woods, enough to hint at how they've survived, but not enough to over-explain and ruin the mystique. What's also worth noting is how the movie balances violence and suspense. People get shot with arrows, hacked with axes, and mutilated, but those moments land because the film actually takes the time to build tension. There are chase scenes that feel desperate. Characters make dumb choices, but you still feel the danger. The violence isn't constant or numbing. It's used to punctuate the fear, not replace it. Ultimately, the first Wrong Turn succeeds because it understands its limits. It doesn't reach beyond what its budget or script can handle. It doesn't try to be anything other than a lean, nasty survival horror movie. Then came Wrong Turn 2, Dead End in 2007. To be fair, the second movie isn't awful. In fact, by straight-to-DVD standards, it's probably one of the better horror sequels out there. It's directed by Joe Lynch, a guy who genuinely understands the mechanics of splatter horror. The kills are outrageous, the energy is high, and there's a kind of twisted fun to it. It leans into camp in a way that almost works. But what Wrong Turn 2 really did was set the tone for everything that came after. A tone that completely ditched the original film's sense of restraint. Instead of trying to scare you, the sequel tries to entertain you with how over-the-top and disgusting it can get. The gore is cranked up to 11. The cannibals are now less like wild animals and more like deformed sitcom villains, and the characters are total cliches. The shift from tension to carnage, from grounded horror to B-list movie absurdity only got worse with each entry. Wrong Turn 3 Left for Dead brought in prison inmates as protagonists, which is a bold choice, but not one the movie knew how to handle. The story is sloppy, the effects are cheap, and by this point, the series was clearly prioritizing body count over anything resembling logic or emotional engagement. People exist only to be brutally murdered, and the kills start to blur together not because they're subtle, but because they're so hollow. Then you get Wrong Turn 4 Bloody Beginnings, which is a prequel no one asked for. It sticks the action in a snowy mental asylum, tries to explain the origins of the cannibals, and somehow makes them less interesting by doing so. It's a blood-soaked mess that confuses gore with storytelling. There's a difference between disturbing and juvenile. This one leans hard into the latter. And Wrong Turn 5 Bloodlines feels like a parody of the franchise. The production value drops significantly. It looks like it was filmed over a long weekend with leftover props from a Halloween store. The acting is stiff, the plot makes no sense, and everything feels like it's been edited by someone who's never heard the term pacing. By now, the movies weren't evolving. Each sequel got cheaper, sloppier, and less coherent. Instead of building on what came before, they were just recycling the same basic premise with a fresh batch of forgettable characters and a few new ways to show intestines on camera. So what happened behind the scenes? For one, budget cuts. With each sequel, the production quality visibly tanked, locations became bland, and the effects got cheaper. You can practically see the seams in the makeup. Worse than the technical decline was the writing. Every sequel leaned harder into lazy storytelling. Characters existed just to be killed, dialogue was cringeworthy, and the cannibal villains became immortal monsters who could survive explosions, gunshots, and fire, losing all believability. By the time Wrong Turn 6 rolls around, the franchise has lost any sense of rules, tone, or reason. In 2021, the franchise tried to hit reset with a reboot simply titled Wrong Turn. And to its credit, it did try something different. The mutants were gone and replaced with a cult-like society called the Foundation. Some fans hated it, but some praised it for trying to be smarter. Either way, it shows just how far the franchise had drifted. Wrong Turn was never going to be a masterpiece, but it had potential. A gritty, small-scale horror story that knew how to be scary without being stupid. Unfortunately, the sequels abandoned all of that in favor of low-effort bloodbaths that got worse with each release. The films didn't just take a wrong turn, they drove off a cliff. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.